Hello, Zen.
Hi, David.
How you doing? You okay?
Yes, I'm good. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, 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 good. I like your
Hi,
background.
Eileen.
I remember that picture. Early's here as well.
Yeah, we have met several times before.
Cool, cool. Yep, good, good, good. Early has his vibe at 2 o'clock.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
4 minutes later?
Hmm?
4 minutes later.
Yeah, so he's waiting here for the examiners to come.
Ah, yeah, good luck.
So if my screen goes blank and I go quiet, that's because I'm talking to the examiner.
Yeah, of course.
But I'll just close the door for now so that it doesn't get too noisy. Uh, yeah, thank you very much for agreeing to talk about your research.
Yes, that's my pleasure. That's my pleasure. And
It's
this
your
is my first time to share this research with others.
yes, yes. It's quite a small group, very informal. So yeah, just
Yeah.
hopefully it will be good fun.
Yeah.
Is it your PhD research?
Well, this is something I done during my hi. This is something I done during my PhD, but it is not exactly a part of my thesis. This is
Okay.
some out of my interest to
Okay,
do
cool,
some
cool,
extra
cool.
work.
You okay, Paula? Oh, you're on mute.
I am, yeah. Yeah, I'm not too bad. Teaching's finished up, so just try to get back on top of the to-do list, which always seems to build up all semester.
Yeah. Yeah, I was complaining to early about all the marking.
Yeah, that's yet to appear, but it will be here in a couple of days' time. So.
Very good, very good. I saw your name pop up on that thing on Monday. Did you manage to get in the end?
No, I couldn't get in at all. I had a total problem with Teams. It just wasn't letting finding my camera for some reason, and the audio wasn't working. So I was like, I think I could hear you guys, but I don't think you could hear me and stuff.
No. That's annoying, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you manage to join one of the other groups? You just missed the whole thing entirely?
I just missed it. I emailed them during it and they said that oh, thanks for trying to get on, but they never invited me to any other groups. So
Okay. It was quite a good discussion, yeah. And also a £25 Amazon voucher.
I know, and that's what I'm most sad about on the run up to Christmas.
I know. I've already spent it on a nice bottle of Jura.
Oh, lovely.
So it cost £27, so £2 for the bottles. That was a good deal, yeah. Hi, Reese.
Hey, right. How's it going?
I've updated the website, Reese. So rather than reply to you, I'll just say that again.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Paula. That's great. Thanks.
No worries.
Oh, you saw the call for papers this morning, was it? Excellent. Excited.
Yeah, so that's just a few more mailing lists for me to target this afternoon. Just have had some teaching in the interim, but yeah, all going ahead. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you all in July in Aberystwyth.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah. Is it far to go up to Anglesey to get the ferry across to Dublin? Do you know?
Say again, sorry.
To drive from Aberystwyth to Anglesey, is that much of a drive, or is it not too bad?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's maybe 2.5 hours. I think getting from Anglesey to kind of Caernarfon is fairly easy, and then just they've improved the roads, but still a bit of a windy drive there. So yeah, it's fairly feasible to do. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. Thinking about afterwards, trying to go and visit my mother or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've I've done it a couple of times. I've driven to Holyhead or Dublin from Aberystwyth, so it's not too bad. 2.5 hours maybe.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Yeah, I was looking up in Google Maps, but of course you never know then whenever what the roads would be like or whatever. Yeah.
In fact, yeah, it's not too bad, and it's easier than taking the train because you'd have to go and change back to Shrewsbury. So that's.
Yeah, we're looking at. Are you going down, Paula?
I don't know. I guess it depends what we've got to present. I don't really have any. All of my stuff just now is on energy, which is just not as fun. I don't know how I could fit that into the migration stuff, but you never know. I might find something that I can write something on. I might, maybe do some of the consultation stuff.
Cool. I see saying you've already pressed the record button, yeah? Is it recording already?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So that means we don't have to worry about forgetting to do that.
Okay.
So we'll just maybe give it a few minutes, and we could get going if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the audience. I think maybe this is unfortunate in the sense that everyone is marking at the moment or teaching still. So
That's fine.
Hopefully, some people can find an opportunity to join.
Yeah, we had 1 or 2 online, but not too many sign-ups for this one. I think it is just an odd time for the end of year.
Yeah.
I was talking. Hebe was in London yesterday. I was talking to one of your colleagues at Queen's, or sorry, at King's, but I've forgotten her name. So it's Claire, someone. And I was saying, oh, do you know Hebe? But of course, it's a big institution. So
yeah, I can't think of anyone called Claire, but I don't really know that many people. Still quite new.
Yeah, she's doing that remote working thing where she's based in Glasgow but works at King's.
Oh, is she? Oh, it'd be great to know her then. Oh, is she maybe working? I might know who it is. I might know
American.
who it is. I don't know if she was American. Do you know what she was working on? Was she working on disasters?
I might well have been quite tall, curly hair, glasses, dark hair.
I don't think I will have ever met her, but I might know somebody who works with her because they were telling me that that somebody they worked with lived in Glasgow, so could be them.
That could be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's already found. I could put in touch if there's any. You could travel together or something. Maybe sometime.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just start then, and hopefully some other people might join, and if not, we can hopefully ask Sen some questions and things. So yeah, just to formally introduce Sen, thank you very much, Sen, for agreeing to take part and give our last talk of 2024. So Sen's a new postdoc at the SRC Centre for Connecting Generations at the University of St Andrews. So welcome to St Andrews. But I think Sen's going to talk about some research that he did whilst doing his doctoral studies recently. So over to Sen, and thank you again for taking part.
Yep, thank you. So I think I'm sharing my screen now, right?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh no, sorry. Yeah. First off, thank you for giving me this opportunity to present my research, and thank you to everyone for joining me today. My name is Sen Li, and as David said, I'm currently a postdoc fellow at the Center for Population Change at the University of St Andrews, where my research focuses more on intergenerational residential proximity in the United Kingdom. But the title of my today's presentation is Motivations in Transition, Destination Choices of Inter-provincial Migration Among Chinese Older Adults. This study is conducted during my PhD, and it is a collaborative effort with scholars from Fudan University in China. The primary focus in migration studies, as we know, is on the process of migration, exploring questions such as who migrates, where they migrate to, and the decision-making processes underlying these moves. In general, this research aims to address these key issues. The findings are closely tied to the context of China. Therefore, I will try my best to explain these details very clearly. First of all, I would like to lay out some of background context that inform what I'm going to investigate in this research. The pace of population aging in the world is much faster than in the past. It is expected that from 2015 to 2050, the proportion of the world's population aged 60 and above will nearly double from 12% to 22%. Under this background, the number of older adult migrants have increased significantly in countries experiencing population aging. For example, in the UK during 1971 to 2001, while the data is a little bit outdated, but I can still find the most updated data so far. There are about 30% of people aged over 50 living at different addresses compared to 10 years earlier. Similarly, in developing countries, taking China as an example, the number of inter-county migrants aged 60 and above increased from 10.6 million in 2010 to 35.3 million in 2020. According to Ravenstein's laws of migration, young adults mainly migrate for economic reasons. However, compared to younger migrants, older adults relocate for a wider range of motivations. Numerous studies have commonly focused on life course developmental perspective, identifying 3 primary motivations for migration in later life, including moving for amenities, moving for assistance from their families, due to mild illness, and moving in response to disability and spouse absence. Undoubtedly, these different motivations for migration will direct people to move to different places. For example, in the United States, it is found that assistance migration is dispersed across the country, whereas amenity-seeking migration primarily reside in the southern and western regions of the country. Therefore, categorizing older adult migration based on their motivations is crucial for understanding the redistribution of the older population within a country. This study is rooted in this background and specifically focused on China. Existing literature on older adult migration has expanded significantly since the 1980s, with most research focusing on industrialized countries that experienced rapid population aging during advanced stages of urbanization. However, this context does not apply to China. Using the United Kingdom as an example, this figure compares the rate of urbanization and levels of population aging between these 2 countries since the 1960s. The top 2 lines represent urbanization rates. Obviously, UK has maintained a high level of urbanization for decades, with around 80% of its population living in urban areas. In contrast, China has experienced a remarkable increase since the 1980s, with its urbanization rates now reaching about 60%. In terms of population aging represented by the bottom 2 lines, using the United Nations definition on an aging society, where the proportion of the population aged 65 and above exceeds 7%, it is clear that UK has entered this stage before the 1960s. During the late stage of urbanization, China became an aging society in 2001, when the proportion of those aged 65 and above reached 7.1%. However, at that time, its urbanization rate was still less than 40%. That is to say, China is currently at the intersection of rapid urbanization and population aging. So under this background, the proportion of individuals aged 60 and above relocating from their local registered residence increased from 3% to 10.5% of all locations between 2000 and 2020. The location choices and mobility patterns of the older population significantly impact spatial resource allocation and local economic growth. Consequently, there has been a growing body of literature on the geography of elderly migration in China. However, these studies have viewed older migrants as a homogeneous group. Given China's distinct social economic context compared to developed countries, the categorization of older migrants' motivations remains unclear. Therefore, the overarching goal of this research is to understand the intricacies of inter-provincial migration in older adulthood in China by linking older adults' migration motivations to their destination choices. To this end, it is important to understand the patterns of migration motivations during the elderly stage. As mentioned in the last slides, during unique economic, social, cultural, and institutional contexts, we argue that the primary motivations for late life migration in China differ substantially from those in developed countries, reflected in 3 key aspects. First of all, many older adults in China still migrate for economic reasons in the early stages of life, in the early stages of aging. While China's pension and age-related systems have improved, they remain underdeveloped, with only a small percentage of rural seniors depending on pensions for a living. Secondly, in contrast to Western families where the core relationship is a horizontal bond between husband and wife, the core relationship in Chinese families is the vertical one between parents and children. There is thus a mutual reliance where adult children depend on their older parents for intergenerational care, while older parents rely on their adult children for support at their age. Some studies indicate that the majority of migrants relocate for family reasons to provide intergenerational care or to meet their own age-related care needs. In addition, amenity-seeking migration is not as prevalent as in development countries. However, it has recently emerged alongside China's economic development and urbanization, such as moving for elderly care. So given these differences, in this research, we propose 3 types of inter-provincial older adult migration prevalent in China, including employment-led migration, dependent migration, and lifestyle migration. By definition, employment migration refers to older adults who primarily migrate for employment considerations. Dependent migration involves older adults relocating to follow their migrant adult children or relatives. And lifestyle-oriented migration is driven by aspirations for self-fulfillment and tends to prioritize quality of life over economic factors. So next, let me walk you through the empirical part of this research. First of all, how can we empirically classify these 3 types of migration? The data used in this research comes from the microdata of the Sixth Population Census in 2010 and the one-person population sampling survey in 2015. And in terms of the definition of migration here, inter-provincial older adult migration are defined as individuals whose current residential province differs from their hukou register province and those aged 60 and above, and those who have left their origins within the last 5 years. The population census and sampling survey in China provide respondents with options to indicate their primary motivations for leaving their hometown. With this data, this table shows the specific motivations associated with each category. Here, I would like to draw your attention to the options others, which was disproportionately more frequently cited than other options in 2015, implying the existence of motivations related to aging, but not specifically listed in the survey. Therefore, a deeper understanding of this category is necessary since we have to determine which type of migration it belongs to. Therefore, I use a very basic logistic regression to examine the differences in social economic characteristics among individuals who relocate for the option of others and other reasons provided in the survey. And the results indicate that in general, older adults who migrate for the option of others generally have more substantial financial resources compared to those who migrate for the remaining choices. This suggests a potential that their migration is affected more by individual preference and demands rather than by economic considerations. In addition, the 2020 population census in China introduced elderly care and wellness as a new option of reasons for migration for the first time, accounting for about 12% of relocation among older adults. This can also support the argument that older adults choosing the option of others are likely to be lifestyle-oriented and migrate for such as better amenities, better healthcare resources, and so on and so forth. The following slides will present the findings on the patterns of the destination choices among older adults and the factors influencing their decision-making processes. I focus primarily on the differences across the 3 types of migration. But as we know, studies in population geography are highly context dependent, meaning that these results are difficult to fully understand without a general understanding of China's economy. As such, before jumping into the details, I would like to first to show you these two figures. One is the spatial distribution of GDP across provinces in China in 2023, where we can find that eastern provinces contribute the most to China's economy. And the second figure shows the top 30 flows of migration during 2015 to 2020, revealing that migrants are mainly from inland provinces and concentrated in eastern or coastal provinces. So briefly speaking, Eastern China is much more developed in social economic domains compared to other provinces, and thus it is much more attractive to migrants compared to other provinces. So let's come back to this research. This table shows the size and proportion of the three types of older adult migration in China. In line with prior studies, dependent migration is the most common type for older adults to leave their hometown. And it is also apparent that there is a significant increase in lifestyle-oriented older migrants, and as well as a decrease in dependent older adult migration, while the employment-led migration has remained stable relatively to the total. So where are these people migrate to? To answer this question, this study examines their destination choices and associated changes across different spatial scales. Firstly, I use migration centroid, the concept of migration centroid, which is derived from the concept of population centroid, to provide an overview perspective on their destination choices patterns. Two interesting findings can be obtained from this figure. First of all, it is apparent that older adults moving for employment tend to favor destinations further south because their centers are further south compared to the other two types during each period. And the second, meaning that southern regions or southern provinces concentrate more employment-led older adult migrants. And similarly, we can also find that lifestyle-oriented older migrants exhibit a higher likelihood to choose inland provinces compared to the other two types. And at the regional scale, China can be roughly divided into 4 parts. And from this figure, it is apparent that Eastern China stands at the most attractive and primary destinations for all 3 types of migration. However, it is relatively less appeal for lifestyle-oriented older migrants compared to the other 2 types. On the contrary, non-eastern regions are relatively appealing for lifestyle-oriented older adult migration. At the provincial scale, this table lists the top 5 destinations of older adult migration among 31 provinces. It is evident that a significant proportion of older migrants are concentrated in a select few destinations. And this highly concentrated pattern is particularly evident within employment-led older adult migration, but it is less so for lifestyle-oriented migration. And consistent with the results shown in the last slide, the major destinations are Eastern China. However, it is noteworthy that Sichuan, this is a western part of China, which typically deemed as underdeveloped or less developed compared to coastal and eastern provinces, but this province attracted a substantial number of lifestyle-oriented older migrants in both periods. So the above descriptive analysis have confirmed that the destination choices of older adult migrants vary according to their motivations. And I also use the index of dissimilarity, which is widely used in analyzing occupational gender segregation to quantitatively evaluate the differences in migration flow patterns among various types. This is a reverse indicator, meaning that a smaller number or smaller value close to 0 indicate greater similarity in the patterns between two types of migration. Here I'd like to I'd like to highlight two interesting results from this indicator. Firstly, as expected, employment-led and lifestyle-oriented older adult migrations exhibit the greatest disparities. And secondly, the spatial patterns of dependent older adult migration and lifestyle-oriented older adult migration become much more similar across time, while the migration patterns between employment-led migration and the dependent migration becomes less similar across time. So how can we explain these differences in destination choices, or what factors can contribute to these differences? To answer this question, I selected a few independent variables which have been widely used in previous population migration modeling, including per capita GDP, average wage, which are used to reflect the local economic conditions, and 6 variables related to amenities are selected, including average temperature in winter and summer, the number of tertiary hospitals, which can be used to reflect the quality of healthcare resources, the number of beds in healthcare institutions, which can be used to measure the quantity of healthcare resources, public per capita public green areas, and population density. Population size and distance between a region and destinations are also considered. Last but not least, I also consider the proportion of migrants aged 15 to 60 from a region to each destination to the total immigrants of destination as a proxy to reflect the social and the family bonds between regions and destinations. And the model used here is conditional logic model to examine how these factors influence the likelihood of an older adult selecting a province as their new residence. Note that given the interest is lies in the differences among these 3 types of older migration, a dummy variable is created here to indicate the migration motivations, the primary migration motivations for each individual, and the interaction terms were introduced for all of these independent variables to see how the influence of these variables varies across different types of motivations or different types of older adult migration. This table shows the modeling results. Model 1 and Model 3 represent results from pooled regression, which means how these factors affect destination choices of older adults regardless of migration motivations. And Model 2 and Model 4 include interaction terms with employment-led migration as a reference type. This means that these results or these coefficients represent the influence of these variables on employment-led older adult migration, and the interaction terms represent the differences between reference type and the other 2 types. We can see that, for example, for average wage, the coefficient of average wage is not significant for older migrants as a whole in Model 1, but it is actually important for employment-led older migrants. Thus, this comparison also highlights the importance of differentiating different migration motivations if we want to have a better understanding of the decision-making process of older adult migration. Therefore, the following analysis will mainly based on Model 2 and Model 4. First of all, for employment-led older migrants, it is clear that GDP per capita and average wage have significant and positive effects across both 5-year periods. Climatic conditions also have influence on their destination choices, showing that older adults moving for employment also prefer regions characterized by mild winters and cool summers. They also incline to destinations with a larger population size and closer to their hometown, either spatially close to their hometown and socially closer to their hometown, because this variable is used to reflect social and family bonds between origins and destinations. So let's have a look at the results of the results of interaction terms. For dependent older adult migration, the interaction terms reveal that most of these variables influence their preferences similarly to those of employment-led older adult migration. For example, during 2005 to 2010, there were no statistically significant differences in the coefficients of this covariance. But in the next 5 years, dependent older adult migration show a stronger preference for example, for mild winter and for more house institution bias and abandoned green areas within the destination. And in terms of lifestyle-oriented older adult migration, they are actually not significantly less influenced by average wage and population size. But place greater importance on amenities such as healthcare resources and population density. So what are the heterogeneity and shifts in destination choices underlying inter-provincial older adult migration? What can we obtain from these modeling results? First of all, the modeling results have shown that each of the 3 migrant groups respond to distinct set of destination-specific attributes, and leading to their diverging spatial patterns of destination choices. First of all, as expected, employment-led older migrants prefer economically prosperous destinations while place less emphasis on amenities. This explains why their migration zone choice are located further south and why their distribution is much more spatially concentrated compared to the other 2 types, because southeastern provinces in China or eastern coastal China are more economically developed compared to other regions. On the contrary, lifestyle older adult migration prioritize amenities more than other factors in their destination choices. This allows them to consider not only traditional migration centers such as coastal and eastern provinces, but also alternative regions such as Sichuan, as mentioned in the descriptive analysis. This western province has attracted a substantial number of lifestyle-oriented older migrants in both periods. And there are entirely different decision-making processes between employment-led and lifestyle-oriented older adult migrations lead to their most distinct migration flow patterns as reflected by the index of dissimilarity. An interesting finding is that dependent older adult migration takes into both job-related and amenity-related factors in deciding where to migrate. This is because older individuals under this category also often follow the migratory routes of their adult children, making local economic conditions crucial to their decision-making process. Additionally, our results indicate a growing concern for public services among these groups, particularly healthcare-related resources. And in line with existing studies, our studies, the findings highlight the importance of family reasons in driving older adults migration, reflected by the large proportion of dependent older adult migration. Though the absolute size of dependent older adult migration slightly decreased from 2005 to 2010. Between 2005 to 2010 to 2010 to 2015, it still remains the primary type of older adult migration in China. And on the other hand, the significance of family bonds and social networks are important for all of the three types of older adult migration. And the modeling results also indicate a shift towards a lifestyle-oriented approach in evaluating migration destinations for dependent older adult migration. The income, as mentioned just now, the income level is important for dependent older adult migration because they always migrate following their adult children. Particularly during the first period of study, the modeling results indicate that they actually exhibit behavior similarly to those of employment-led migrants because of the non-statistical significance of interaction terms. This means that perhaps means that their decision-making on migration is primarily directed by the needs of the younger generation. This is actually common in the Chinese context because of the strong emphasis on family bonds in our traditional culture. Assistance to adult children, such as intergenerational care, is viewed as a contribution to the family as the well-being of family as a whole by older parents. However, in recent years, that is the period of 2010 to 2015, the results reveal that they exhibit an increasing emphasis on amenity-related factors, which usually cater to their individual or personal needs, such as healthcare-related facilities. This change may be linked to the other motive for dependent older adult migration, the pursuit of physical and emotional support from their children. Similarly, a few quantitative studies have observed similar impression of individualistic values in the migration decision for Chinese older adult parents. This changing decision-making process has also resulted in the differences between dependent older adult migration and lifestyle older adult migration. Their patterns becomes much more similar across time. And on the other hand, the patterns between dependent older adult migration and employment older adult migration, their patterns become more and more dissimilar across time. In addition, the results reveal a significant trend in inter-provincial older adult migration, that is an increasing emphasis on amenities such as favorable climates, regardless of motivations for migration. This trend also may imply our bringing internal older adult migration in China closer to the left cause developmental classification observed in development countries. That is, in the future, as population aging continues and urbanization continues, amenity-seeking migration in China probably increase continuously. So finally, a quick wrap up for this research. Briefly speaking, the whole idea for this study is to review the intricacies of inter-provincial migration in older adulthood in China by linking older adults' diverse migration motivations to their destination choices. This is important, especially given that China is currently at the intersection of rapid urbanization and population aging. This specific context of background lead to significant changes in the patterns of motivation. For example, a significant surge in lifestyle-oriented older adult migration within this 10-year time frame. And basically, the argument has been confirmed that different migrant groups respond to different set of attributes and thus tend to choose different destinations. Also, changes in the decision-making processes of each migration type are also observed, which is also related to the economic development and urbanization of China, of the country. So, and as the country's economic development continue, the patterns of older adult migration have increasingly mirrored those observed in developed countries. And from a policymaking perspective, the heterogeneity and dynamics in older adult migration should put pressure on policymakers to develop tailored and forward-looking strategies to address the needs or difficulties older adults may face at the destinations in order to create an aging-friendly society. For example, in addressing the challenge of population aging, older adults can become crucial labor resources. However, this would be a great opportunity for local authorities to take advantage to boost local economic growth. However, it is important to note that this is probably only for most eastern provinces, because employment-led older adult migration tend to concentrate in eastern or developed or coastal provinces in China, but not for inland provinces. That also implies that the heterogeneity, because of different motivations for migration, implies that different regions there isn't a one size fits all policy for all of the regions, and different regions may put forward different policies in terms of the characteristics of older adult migrants flowing into their regions. And last but not least, as far as I know, this research is the first attempt to combine the geography of older adult migration in China with their migration motivations. And there indeed are a few limitations that warrant further attention, such as data aspects. For example, the inconsistent classification of migration motivation provided by different data may lead to some bias in the results, and also how to obtain the most updated data to reflect the updated patterns of older adult migration, because in line with the findings from this study, as China's development, the patterns of motivation changes significantly even within a short time frame. And also other forms of migration are ignored in this research. We only focus on inter-provincial, which is quite a long distance migration. How about short distance migration? And also we only focus on migration destination choices. That means we only focus on this issue from the perspective of destination. How about from the perspective of regions, that is to say population out migration? And also we only focus on the attributes, place, destination specific attributes, and how these attributes influence their destination choices. But how about individual factors such as health, education, gender, and family level characteristics such as household income influence their migration decision making? Also warrant our further attention. So thereabout is a brief overview of this study, and if you are interested in more details, you can find the full paper, which has recently been published in Comparative Migration Studies. So that's all from me. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your comments and suggestions.
Thank you very much, Sen. That was really, really good, fascinating, well done. Yeah, I was going to ask if we could read the paper somewhere, but so you preempted that by showing the screenshot of the journal. So that's great news. You got it published recently. Well done.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I wonder, is there something funny going on? If you stop sharing your screen with
I stopped sharing. Oh no, I didn't stop sharing, I think. Oh, let me check. Yeah, I think you can see my slides now.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, just to bring it back to the original stuff we were seeing, like without the PowerPoint, maybe you could minimize that.
Sorry.
Just so we could I was going to suggest you minimize the presentation so we can just see each other's faces more easily.
Stop sharing, you mean?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paula has a question.
Yeah, really fascinating stuff, and thank you for sharing the paper. I'm sure both me and perhaps my students next year will find that quite an interesting example to kind of pull upon. It came up a couple of times. You mentioned that the lifestyle migrants were going to this western province. Excuse my pronunciation. I think you said Sichuan. And I just wondered if there's anything particular about the geographic or cultural context of Sichuan that was a particular pull to the west compared to the other provinces, and why that stood out.
So you mean how cultural institutional concepts?
I just wondered if you had any insights in regards to why Sichuan had a pull to the west that perhaps other provinces didn't have. So is there something specific about Sichuan in regards to its cultural or geographic context that makes it an interesting destination for lifestyle migrants?
Ah, I see. Yeah. This is a very good point of question, I would say. From the perspective of cultural aspects, why, for example, lifestyle-oriented migrants tend to migrate to comparatively prefer to inland provinces. So far, I think I can propose one geographical context reason for this pattern is because of the living environment in non-eastern provinces, because they have non-eastern provinces or inland provinces have a lower population density, and also for example, has a better living environment, like public green areas, public per capita public green areas. So these factors potentially contribute to one this kind of migration have a higher likelihood migrating to these provinces. And also another reason, I think, is that because of their less dense population, they have relatively abundant healthcare resources, which is also important for this kind of this particular category of older adult migration. So I guess these are a few potential reasons for this, for their different patterns of destination choices. But in terms of cultural aspects, I would say I cannot immediately provide a few instances, because I would say because relatively speaking, China is a centralized country, and cultural aspects from my perspective is not quite decisive as other factors, I think. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about that.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Paula. Hebe?
Yeah, thanks, Sen. That was a really interesting presentation, and you've got so much there. There was a lot to be thinking about. I was wondering, you spoke about how older adults would move for caring, for intergenerational caring, and sometimes to also have physical and social support from their family members as well.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether, I know this wasn't what you were looking at exactly, but is it common that younger adults or families move to where older adults are to provide caring, or is it mainly the other way around? Is the onus mainly on older adults to be moving?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. I think, well, personally speaking, I would say no. I don't think like younger adults may migrate toward their parents to look after their parents, because I would say in Chinese culture, parents is the side tend to sacrifice a lot to their children rather than the other way around.
Right.
So it is usually the case that parents tend to follow. First of all, it is their adult children migrate to like eastern or mega cities for living, and their older parents, and then later migrate toward them, or probably because they make their migration decision together to see where to migrate. And I think this is, I can also use my current experience using UK data to answer this question, and is that because currently I'm focusing on intergenerational residential proximity in the United Kingdom, which is actually related to like dependent adult migration in my research. Okay, and of course, these are just very initial analysis from my own side. So all of the opinions are from my own. And I noticed that as people age, of course, from the perspective of children in the UK, as people age, they tend to live further away to their parents. But from the perspective of parents, as older parents age, they tend to live closer to their adult children. So I think these two different perspectives combining with these two different perspectives means that even in the UK, where culture, where like a family is not strong as strong as in China, it is like parents tend to migrate or to move closer to children rather than children to migrate to their parents. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reese?
Great. Thanks very much, Sen. I really enjoyed the talk. I have to admit, I'm very ignorant. I don't really know much about China at all. So please, again, apologies if these are very kind of simple questions. But I've got two questions if I can. I think, first of all, is there any aspect of return migration, or again, a secondary migration in this? Are these people who've perhaps migrated once earlier in their life and then return, migrating again? And if so, is this is return some kind of decision or some kind of factor there? And the second thing I was thinking about as well, what's the, I'm sure it's the best way of phrasing this really, but how local, I suppose, do people tend to stay? Are they looking for kind of a lifestyle area, but within 1,000 kilometers or something like that? So does there tend to be some kind of spatial limit of how far people want to migrate, if that makes sense, how I'm phrasing it?
I'm sorry, could you please briefly repeat your second question? Yeah,
so I was just thinking as well, is there a kind of distance wherein people tend to migrate? So if it's a question of, lifestyle, is it a matter of, well, I want, there's two destinations, but this second one's maybe not as good, but it's a bit closer. Is that a fact? Do people tend to migrate within some kind of radius, some kind of distance?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I would like to answer your second question first. I think, first of all, I would say, as I mentioned in the limitation part, I would say short distance migration should be much more common compared to inter-provincial migration, which is long distance comparatively. But this is ignored in this research. So that means we actually lose a relatively larger proportion of migration. But this is out of, I would say, for mainly the concern for data, because if we focus on a smaller scale of research, that is cities. In China, the second level of the next level of provinces, cities, and there are about more than 200 cities in China. So if I use this scale for analysis, the data quality would be a concern, because the issue of zero number, which is very common in migration studies, meaning that because all of the data related to migration are from sampling surveys, means that for two places far away with each other, or very small cities, they definitely have migration flows between each other, but they are very hardly to be captured by surveys. So this is one of the concerns that I use a relatively larger spatial scale as analysis. And another reason is for choose a larger scale rather than a smaller scale is because of the policy in China, because we have hukou register policy, which is mainly, I would say the influence of this policy is much significant at provincial level compared to smaller level. So considering these two aspects, we focus only on long distance migration. But of course, short distance migration would be much more common compared to larger distance, especially the data showing that for long distance migration only accounts to less than 10% of all of the older adult population. And also, I think this is also related to your first question about like other forms of return migration. Return migration, I think, always like short distance would be much easier to happen. Return migration easier to happen within like short distance migration, and also like return migration is currently an emerging phenomenon in China because the regional coordinated regional development inland provinces in China may be no longer simply seen as underdeveloped regions compared to coastal China, coastal regions. So lots of return migration, return younger migrants occurred recently. So that means also we'll have return older adult migration, but also because of the data definition of migration I use is kind of stock data or maybe comparable to international migration, which means that once you migrate to your origin, the data cannot capture you because your destination and your origin are the same. For example, international migrant, now I'm from China and now I'm living in the UK, so I'm an international migrant. But once I came back to China, so I'm not migrant anymore. So there's two different types of migration definitely deserves our attention to see like different migration reasons and there are different patterns.
Great, thanks very much. That's great.
Thanks, Sen. Can I just ask a follow-up question about hukou and the extent to which that's a barrier to mobility? So I've been thinking about it quite a lot recently. So Early, who was sitting there a minute ago, you probably know his PhD is about hukou and how it prevents graduates from getting good jobs, or sometimes in Shanghai. So Early's got his Viva right now, so fingers crossed. So for older people, is it difficult for them to get hukou status in a new region, and therefore does that prevent them getting access to healthcare, social services, etc.? Yeah. How important is it, basically?
Well, I would say to answer this question, if I answer this question using the data, I mean the time frame I use in this study, I mean before 2015, I think the answer probably yes. It is a little bit hard for not only for older adults, but also for younger adults. It would be hard for them to obtain local hukou, especially as you mentioned, like for Shanghai, Beijing, those developed mega cities in China. But after 2015, Chinese government relaxed hukou restriction significantly, especially for middle-sized and small-sized cities. So currently, I don't think hukou will impose much significant influence on most domains of our daily life, except probably have some influence on education so far, but it is only the case for like Shanghai and Beijing. And more interestingly, hukou may not the only standards or only requirements to define access to like social welfare. It is like whether you have the ability to buy a house at the at the destination. If you can pay for, if you are an owner of a property, I like for example in Shanghai, even though you don't have a hukou, you may also can access most of social resources. Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
Yeah. I mean, but for other, in addition to except for education, which is the concern for most Chinese people, I would say other domains of social life like healthcare, healthcare and public amenities, the restriction of hukou becomes less and less pronounced, I would say.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I ask another quick final question if anyone else wants to jump in? was going to ask about, so your sample was people aged 60 and older. I wonder, would it make sense to try and disaggregate that a little bit between kind of younger old and old?
Yeah. Yes.
In terms of their motivations might be very different.
Yes. Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think this is a very good point. Especially, for example, I think for those migrants for employment, they should be relatively younger. And for migrant for family assistance, they probably a little bit older, or at least not that as healthy as employment-led migration. So I think a further disaggregation into by detailed age groups would be beneficial for us to understand deeply for this category, especially
And sorry, you mentioned policy as well. Has there been much of a policy response? I think the retirement age in China is still quite young, isn't it?
I would say retirement age, the legal requirements age in China, I think they changed the policy change. I think maybe a few months, last month or 2 months ago. But previously, I think for male is about 60, and for female is about 50. For male is about 60, and female is about 50 or 55. Yes.
Yeah, so I guess there would be pressure to raise that as the population ages.
Yeah. Now I think it's rise to like for male to 63, if I'm right. Yeah.
They're still quite young compared to lots of other European countries, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but because of life expectancy, like.
Well, I think that's probably our time up. Unless anyone else wants to chime in again before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Sen. It was fascinating to hear about your research, and congratulations again on getting the paper out recently. That's great news.
Thank you so much.
And
thank you for your wonderful questions and comments.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So bye.
Thanks everyone. Speak soon. Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.